Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Latched Mama podcast. It's been so long, but we're back. I'd like to say we've survived the pandemic, but the pandemic is still very much part of our lives. But we're here. We got our feet back under us a little bit at Latched Mama. Feel like things are back under control, mostly because today's guest is back here helping us at Latched Mama. Our amazing project manager, catch-all, keeps this boat afloat when my life is falling apart. Lauren is here with us today, and we are going to be talking about going from one baby to two babies, which is a topic that a lot of people have asked us to talk a little bit about. Some tips, some pointers, and kind of get some insight into what's happened in Lauren's life for the last few months. You're listening to the Latched Mama podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Wirt, business owner and tired mom of 5. Join us each week as we talk about pregnancy, nursing, parenting, and all things motherhood.
Wow. Hey, guys. Happy to be here. As my baby cries.
Hi, sweet little Arthur. I say I don't really like other people's babies very much, but Arthur and I have a connection. We sit next to each other with our masks on, or I have a mask. He, of course, does not. And I smile with my mask on, and he sees it. I schmize with my eyes, and he smiles right back at me.
Yeah.
Kind of.
You give out good vibes.
He's pretty much the cutest little baby ever. So Lauren just came back to work. I guess she's probably been back for a little while now, but you know, all these days kind of run together. And she now has 2 babies. How is it?
It's great. I mean, pandemic postpartum is a little different than regular postpartum, but I mean, 1 to 2. It's so my eldest, as you know, is 2.5.
Okay.
He just turned 2 when Arthur was born, who is now almost 6 months. So, I mean, I think like the biggest difference was you didn't have any help pandemic.
Yeah.
It's just you and your partner and a newborn and a toddler.
Holy moly.
So
was your partner able to take some time off of work too, or how did that work?
Yeah. So we're definitely fortunate that he was able to stay home, have some time off for the baby, and then also be able to work from home. So that was definitely a silver lining.
But you had you had a brand new baby, and then you had a 2-year-old, and your husband was trying to work from home.
Yeah. So, I mean, the mom guilt is real because you're very much trying to keep the toddler from interrupting work meetings and just like overall distractions. Because they're 2. They just want to explore and be involved and chat and be cute. And you're like, hey, there's a client on the call.
And their whole world's been turned upside down because mommy now has a new baby. Talk to me a little bit, if you don't mind, about kind of what your thoughts and feelings were before Arthur was born. Were you worried? Were you excited? Did you have any idea what was going to happen in terms of the dynamics of your relationship with Emmett?
Yeah, I mean, there's that kind of cliche of like, you don't realize that your heart can hold more love. I mean, like, Absolutely. That's so corny, but you're like, how is it possible for me to actually love another human being? Like, do I have space? Like, seriously, do I have space? Am I going to love them both equally the same? I mean, those are all things that, it sounds so silly now because you're like, of course you're going to love both your kids the same. Like, your heart's just going to grow. It's going to be great. But yeah, you're like, I mean, change is happening. He's not going to get the same attention. And I hope that he doesn't resent me or feel sad or resent the baby. I mean, these are all things that just go through your mind of like, I don't know what's going to happen. But I mean, it all works out. I mean, he's still so young. He loves his brother. I mean, he just wants to help. And if I could go back and tell myself anything, I would have been like, relax. He's going to be okay. Absolutely. You guys are going to grow and it's going to be fine.
It's so hard with those pregnancy hormones, though, because, you know, just vulnerability is such a huge part of pregnancy in general, especially towards the end. And then, you know, you try and fix everything and you want it all perfect and it all, you know, comes together how it's meant to come together. And, you know, you're just kind of along for the ride at that point. Do you have any like favorite moments from those first few days, or do you want to tell us a little bit about Arthur's birth and where Emmett was and how that all worked?
Yeah. So Arthur was born at home. it was kind of just like am I in labor? Am I in labor? I don't know. So I spent the day just hanging out with Emmett. We baked some things.
It's awesome.
We had a dance party. But then when it was go time, I was like, all right, Emmett.
You gotta go.
You gotta go. I'm feeling it. I'm a little, I don't want to be touched right now. So luckily I have family nearby that has also been really isolated, and they took him. But then after Arthur was born, Emmett came by, and initially his reaction was just like, what? Who is this? Like, what is this little thing? Like his face, I wish I could like recreate it because it was just so funny. But he was just shocked, and he had no clue what to do with himself. But it quickly, immediately changed, and he was just like, I think he kind of instinctively knew, okay, this is a new person in our lives. Yep. We're gonna treat him and love him. Like he just totally is in love with his brother. And I think the age difference helps. Like he's not quite. Like he's still dependent, but also independent enough that he can kind of like take care of himself. Like, I want a toy, so I'm going to go get a toy for myself.
Yeah, and Arthur can't go get a toy yet, which is kind of nice.
So he's really, really helpful in that case.
But it is nice too because he can still have some of his own stuff. Like my first two are 20 months apart, and I said from like day 2 or 3 with baby number 2. I loved parenting 2 more than I loved parenting 1. Like it was just such an eye-opening experience. Like I felt finally like a mom. I felt like we had a family. I don't know, for some reason, I think my second son's birth was a lot more empowering. It's actually what ended up eventually starting Latched Mama. God, I feel like it's so long ago. 6 years ago, 7 years ago. I don't even know at this point. Flies. But yeah, crazy. But I look at them now and they couldn't be any more different. They're kind of like oil and water, but then they also miss each other during the day. So,
I was gonna say, are they really close? Because that's something that I'm really looking forward to. Is like that age gap of 2 years. Like they're just enough. Yeah. But is there more conflict? I don't know. Like, what am I getting myself into? I'm not quite sure.
So I think it depends on the kids. I mean, my first 2 are very, very different. You know, my first is kind of athletic and kind of weirdly kind of more sensitive, and my second one is a little bit more outgoing, and he's kind of more analytical, but you know, their brains don't quite work exactly the same way, so sometimes they get frustrated with each other, but in general they miss each other. In general, anything good or bad happens, the first person they want to share it with is each other. Which is really kind of cool.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's cool. But so talk to me about some struggles. Anything that has been surprisingly hard or
surprisingly hard. I mean, there's always going to be stuff that's hard. I think, aside from making sure that you keep 2 humans alive, that is a big responsibility, of course. But I think it's also trying not to lose my patience is really hard, and just remembering, hey, he's 2. Yep. So you have to remember to slow down and kind of explain, like, hey, we can't put our hand on the stove.
Yep.
Like, if I'm cutting something, like the very obvious dangers,
absolutely,
you still have to be really aware of, but also balancing. I mean, I guess it's just the balancing act, but
it's really a hard age. Like I remember, like there's something that kind of happens at some point where I think it's between like 2 and 3, maybe it's 3. I don't know. For boys, it's probably different. Where some sort of like light bulb goes off in their head, and suddenly like these dangerous things start to make more sense. But there's that age where like they're gonna run in front of a car because they have no idea that like that when you say a car is gonna hurt you, it's really gonna hurt you, or they're gonna put their hand on a hot stove because they don't associate the two. But then at some point it clicks and it becomes much easier. But I totally remember that, and I remember like at one point I was getting them both out of the car, and I was putting Alex on my back, and Nathan just bolted. Oh my god! And I remember grabbing him, and he fell backwards and he hit his head. It was terrible, but it was one of those moments where I was like, I can't. How am I going to keep 2 humans alive? Like how is this going to go on? But the good news is they get older, you know, and you eventually get more sleep, and they grow, and normally, you know, kids start to connect the dots, and that's how we all have gotten here where we don't run in front of cars anymore. For
yeah,
the most part.
it's like giving yourself grace and understanding. Like, hey, it's okay if he falls, within reason, but like it's okay if he falls on the grass. Like it's okay. Just be there and love him and like just be present. I think that's kind of one of the biggest things that I'm trying to remember and be kind with myself with the 1 to 2. Because with Emmett for the longest time, he was my whole world, my whole life, and now there's 2. Yeah. So
absolutely,
it's just like sharing the time and
he's probably having to learn more about patience and sharing mommy and
dad and so I mean I think that's kind of the biggest.
Hey everybody, sorry to interrupt the podcast. Melissa here with Latched Mama. Just wanted to give you a little update on what we have going on with latchedmama.com. All of our amazing fall inventory has started to arrive. We have some awesome cool styles to take you through the fall and the winter. Bump friendly, pump friendly, anything that you guys need, we've got it. So go check it out at latchedmama.com. Yes. How's sleep going? Was Emmett still co-sleeping when Arthur was born? Do you want to?
Yeah, I don't know if people will chew me up for this, but so we have
not on the Latched Mama podcast.
we have a giant king size bed. Emmett, we've tried like time and time again to get him in his own bed. That's just not how this kid rolls. And I'm very much like every kid has different individual needs. Yeah. So I was like, honestly, if this means that I'm going to get some sleep, you can 100%. You can join our bed. But so there's 4 of us in the bed, but we're all very separated. I mean, we follow the rules of like no big blankets, no extra pillows. I mean, so it works for our family.
Absolutely.
We're on top of it.
Yeah.
Not literally, because that would be very dangerous. But we're getting some sleep and it helps not breastfeeding. So I'm up throughout the night anyway, and there's no
judgment coming from here. I think Nathan was in our bed. Our first was in our bed probably until he was like 4. Every kid is different, and you just gotta do what allows you to get up and do life and keep them alive and just get through every day.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's so funny how different Arthur is too. Like I'm seeing when he's a different kid. Like Emmett was on the boob forever. Like that was his comfort. Arthur, I'm like offering, he's like, I'm not hungry, I don't want it. Like I have no interest. So I'm like, okay, I mean that's fine, totally fine. It's just funny how they're so different.
Just wait, it gets a little addictive because then you just want to keep having them because you're like, oh my gosh, this one's personality this one's personality is so cool and they're into this, and then this one likes to do this, and oh my gosh, and then like 1 and 4 get along really well because they have this connection. That's how you end up with 5. But it's cool. It's it's so much fun, I feel like, to build a family and to just watch the dynamics and watch them grow and their relationship grow together.
And I think about there's 4 in total of my siblings, so there's 3 others, and we're all super super close and super like 3 years apart. So and like to this day, I mean, all my siblings, we text each other constantly. Like we are so involved in each other's lives. Yeah. And I mean, they are another cliche. We're built-in friends. I mean, like, sure, we hate each other some days, but it's so nice to have that connection with each other.
And I think that's like that big thing to remind, everybody of is like, we get those messages all the time with people who are moms who are just so terrified that they're not going to be able to love number 2 like they love number 1 or 3 like they love number 2. It happens and your heart just opens up and I feel like watching that connection and that sibling connection happen in some ways is one of the most joyful parts of motherhood for me. So
I agree, and I'm sure it gets bigger every I mean, your heart, I love that visual of like your heart just grows like the Grinch, with every kid, but not saying that we're the Grinch, but you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
It's just really magical, and doesn't mean you need to have a bunch of kids either to have a really big heart, but
absolutely
you can have one kid and still have a giant heart. Yeah. But it really is such a special, experience to have, and it's nice to remind myself like don't try not to stress so much. 1 to 2 they are not going to remember like all those moments throughout the day where I'm really beating myself up, like, oh, I lost my patience, I lost my temper. Like they're probably not going to remember that.
Yeah.
Like,
And just do the best you can. It's hard. No matter how many kids you have, whether you have one or whether you have, 10, or 12, or not trying to judge anybody who has more. But like, it's hard. It's tough, and just keep on giving yourself grace.
Yeah, that's the takeaway.
Yeah,
everybody,
absolutely.
just give yourself grace because you deserve it. And
perfect. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the little Latch Mama family, little Arthur. We like you.
He likes it here too, as he's like trying to eat everything.
Cool. Well, thanks for listening, guys, and yeah. Thanks, Lauren, for being here.
Thanks for having me. Now let's go unpack some boxes.
I know. Woo-woo.
Ship me.